I demand to be put in a seat that is able to recline. A few years ago I was on a flight from LA to Singapore, takes 16 plus hours. I'm a tall dude. Around 6 foot 3 inches. So, I don't fit very well in economy class seats. On most planes my knees are often very close or right up against the seat in front of me. This makes it impossible for the person in front of me to recline their seat, which usually isn't a problem once the person in front of me sees how cramped I am in those tiny seats. However, for this particular flight, the man in front of me was not having it. He tried to recline his seat, but couldn't because my legs were there. He turns around and sees what's happening and asks me something along the lines of, "Do you mind letting me put my seat back?" I respond with, "I wish I could but I physically can't. I'll do my best to give you as much space as I can, but it won't be much." At this point he starts to get angry and just starts pushing as hard as he can back on his seat. Needless to say, this was not particularly pleasant for me. I ask him to please stop, and he says, "I'll stop when I can put my seat back." I decide I'll just wait him out, he'll eventually get tired. After about 10 to 15 minutes of this, he calls a flight attendant over and proceeds to demand a new seat. The flight attendant tells him there are no available seats and he will have to deal with it. He demands to speak to the pilot. So the flight attendant goes up front to talk to the cockpit. Keep in mind that throughout this he is still pressing with all his might against my knees, with only short breaks to yell at the flight attendant. After a couple of minutes, the co-pilot, he wanted to speak to the pilot and wasn't happy about this, comes back and tries to explain to the man that he can't change seats because there are no other coach seats free. The man continues to demand a seat that is able to recline, "Give me an upgrade, this is unacceptable," making a scene, etc. The co-pilot finally gives in and says while looking at the man, "Sir, would you like to sit up in business class?" The man stands up and mutters something similar to, "ducking finally," to which the co-pilot responds, "Sir, sit down. I wasn't talking to you." He turns to me and repeats, "How would you like a seat in business class?" I have, to this day, never seen someone as furious as the man as I walked past him to my new business class seat, with free drinks.
Now to the comments. The pilot made the right call. I hope to hell he had a shit-eating grin while saying it and you two giggled all the way to business class.
OP replied. The co-pilot kept his cool pretty well. I definitely had a shit-eating grin big enough for the both of us. Combined with the muffled laughter of the other passengers, it turned out pretty well. Also, happy cake day.
I would have laughed out loud. I can't imagine bearing witness to that and not finding it completely hilarious. Does this guy think the pilot equals manager? Pilot is busy flying the plane, piss off. Planes are a nightmare for basically everyone, and it would be better if people like this were more considerate. I never recline because it barely does anything and potentially makes the person behind me more cramped. The fact that this dude really acted like you should have just popped off your kneecap so he could have a meager 2-inch recline really rusts my pants.
Does this guy think the pilot equal manager? Pilot is busy flying the plane, piss off. Planes are a nightmare for basically everyone, and it would be better if people like this were more considerate. I never recline because it barely does anything and potentially makes the person behind me more cramped. If I think about planes as just the bare minimum required to float you through the air to get to your destination, like a cheap bus in the sky, I don't ever get my expectations up and it's pretty simple to tolerate the lack of comfort.
This is actually a really good analogy. Economy is a shitty Greyhound, business class is like a halfway decent bus with nice seats and air conditioning and whatnot, and first class is a really ducking nice bus that like super famous rock stars take on tour. 10/10ths would use to compare travel again. My fiancé is 6 feet 9 inches and sends a virtual high five because you understand his pain and got the best revenge he's heard of.
At 6'9" you might as well just take out the seat in front of you.
Some exit rows have the seat in front of the window taken out. At 6 feet 3 inches myself it's glorious. What airline were you on? I'm 6 foot 2 inches and usually just slide my legs underneath the seat in front of me and have never had issues with someone reclining.
It was Urban Legend Airways.
I think I've heard a story similar to this. If I recall correctly, it was either a racist woman or a homophobic woman. The pilot or stewardess upgrades the other person to first class, something along the lines of, "We wouldn't want you sitting next to a nasty person." If anyone knows what I'm talking about, feel free to correct me. There was a viral video making the rounds a few years back with a very similar situation, but it featured an old woman complaining about the black man/woman beside them, and the black passenger was upgraded. I just did 30 seconds of sleuthing and it turns out this is a well-known story arc on Snopes. https://www.snopes.com/fact-check/obnoxious-passengers. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but maybe don't make room for OP to recline just yet. This brings me great joy that the steward did that. The douche deserved it. And a few wet willies coming his way if you ask me.
It was the best possible call he could make. It not only solves the problem for the person throwing a fit, but it also doesn't reward throwing a fit. If he upgraded the guy throwing a fit, he'd have as many fits as there was open seats in business class to deal with before takeoff.
The irate passenger threw a fit because the guy behind him didn't fit. I've heard so many renditions of this story. I don't see anything malicious on your part, just the patience of a God-aged saint. I'm also 6 foot 3 inches, and feel your pain. My knees touch the seat in front of me before they even try to recline. Congrats on your reward, smiley.
It was with malice aforethought on part of the co-pilot that he first asked the question while looking at the complainer, to make him think he'd be getting the business class seat. It was compliance that the complainer got his wish for a seat that reclined by having the OPS seat vacated when the co-pilot revealed the question was being asked of OP instead. Satisfying.
I'm a frequent flyer, and I'm skeptical. The Snopes article posted sounds about right. I find it hard to believe that the co-pilot came out too. He demands to speak to the pilot. I just imagine the pilot coming to the guy to talk with him while the plane goes 90 degrees downwards and crashes. r/that happen. This is one of the oldest jokes in r/jokes. I'm 6 feet 4 inches and travel extensively internationally. I have yet to be on an overseas flight where I couldn't stick my feet under the seat in front of me, allowing recline. Honestly, I would not be happy not being able to recline on a long flight. I never complain when the folks in front of me do it. Yeah, it reduces the area for a laptop, but a little propping and it works fine. If not available for free, I'll typically pay for the more legroom seats, economy plus, etc., where it's simply not a problem. That said, I've flown Chicago to Tokyo, Shanghai, Beijing, Seoul, Hong Kong, LAX to Sydney, etc. in regular econ with my legs stretched out under the seat. I can see if you're 6 feet 7 inches, but I honestly don't get why reclining is such an offense. Edit. Just remembered one overseas flight where I couldn't get my legs under. KLM 747 Combi freighter, last row. Amsterdam to Chicago. That was a bad one.
Yes. And the international flag carriers that fly long haul tend to be roomier than your typical domestic flight on a Southwest or similar carrier.
Seat drama. I had a guy on my commuter bus who always reclined all the way and got aggressive with people if they complained. He looked like Lawrence Tierney, so people just let him win. One day he did that to me. I'm 6 feet 2 inches, so I locked my legs and let him strain. He got puffy, but I won that one. He took that shit personally and gave me dirty looks on other trips. One day I was already sitting in an aisle seat and he got on, gave me a nice long look and took the seat in front of me, so I was like duck this, and I slid over one to the window. Other people were boarding, so this super frail old lady took the seat I just vacated. Lawrence Tierney didn't notice this, he was still settling down. Then he reclined his seat violently. He thought I was going to block him and he gave it his full effort. The seat snapped back so hard it missed the old lady's face by like 2 inches. She yelps, and everyone around is like, what the duck is this guy doing? Tierney swings his fat head around, sees where I am, is visibly surprised and starts to stammer, that guy, the seat. Out of nowhere this other dude comes charging up the aisle and grabs Tierney by the neck and yells in his face, you asshole. You almost hit her, what is wrong with you? Now other people are up, it's going to be a rumble, no one likes Lawrence. Commuter feuds have a long boil. Everyone calms down instantly, the aisle guy makes sure the lady is okay, we all sit there for another 2 hours and that's the end of that. I never see the guy again.